That's a berm.
Okay, that's, those are my questions.
Any other comments from the commission?
Just two quick questions. We've already discussed this. I just want to get it on the record. There were two objections raised. There were two objections raised that I read that raised some questions in my mind. One was the percentage of the lot coverage, limit being 20%. Looking at the picture, there was no site plan. There was some question about that, but I understand that's been verified, and I expect the applicant to present on that. But from the staff perspective, that we verified that.
We verified the coverage of the structure.
It's under 20%. Right. And then the other question was some of the height restriction. I think the restriction is about 35 feet. There's some question about some of the, I don't know if I can call them structures, because that's a bit of a loaded term, but whatever exists inside that substation, it may be in excess of 35 feet. Where are we on that?
I think that's something that the applicant can address. I think there are some structures in there that will, most will be below, but some will be above. I think they have that addressed.
Is that something that the staff has become comfortable with?
Well, one of the findings that I read was that power lines over 49 feet are conditional use. And so that's what's before you. If that part of the substation is ancillary to the power line, I kind of feel like it's part of the system.
Power line construction, is it pole or line?
I think it's pole.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you, Doug. Now hear from the applicant.
Jason Norley, General Manager of Beaver Lake Power, and with me is Ben Clay, Project Manager for Rocky Mountain Power. So we were asked to, come and talk about the substation and the mitigating factors on the substation. I know that the crossing at 113 came up again, so I'd like to address that first. We did do a lot of work to make sure we don't have dead-end structures on 113, steel dead-end structures. I think that to get the spacing that we want, and that staff has really challenged us to get to on 113, they may be steel tangent structures in order to get that spacing.
I know I don't know what a tangent structure versus dead end structure. I haven't. I'm guessing, but you use layman terms for us on what those are.
Right. So go ahead.
Talking about 113 crossing.
Yeah, 113 crossing.
Yeah. So, and there's been Benjamin Clegg, Rocky Mountain Power Project Manager. There's been some discussion about the design being extremely preliminary, and we've gone through and done a design. We haven't produced construction documents because until we have a permit, it wouldn't make a lot of sense to do that. Also, one of the things we're asking for is short span versus long span. It wouldn't make much sense for us to produce two sets of construction documents based off of that. We have gone far enough in a design to know what we're planning on doing, and currently what we're planning, so the line comes down as planned, starting from the north, headed south, and it crosses. There's a slight angle where it crosses at 113. So the current plan as designed has a wood pole on one side and a small steel pole on the other side. We don't have a geotechnical report for the entire route yet, and that's one of the things that we will do as part of our final construction documents. And that will dictate whether or not that steel pole can be just directly embedded into the ground or whether it needs like a concrete foundation that it sits on. But it would be like much, much smaller than the dead-end structure, that large structure that Doug presented earlier, where we turn off of Highway 40. We would think typically the foundation on that would be something in the range of 3.5 feet max if it had a foundation. And the structure there on Highway 40 is probably 7 feet. I'm looking at, yeah, so it's going to be double, the size. So it would be much smaller as what's the current plan. And one thing I would throw out as a potential, I guess I'll throw it to the commission to decide how to address this. As you were talking, Commissioner Hendricks, about what do you say exactly as the condition where, saying, make sure you think about it and you kind of orient it. What do you say prescriptively on what to do? The current design is a smaller steel pole on one side and a wood pole on the other. These are not giant steel structures on both sides, although one side is steel. But perhaps you could say so many feet set back the right way.
Why is one steel and one wood?
Because there's a slight angle on, so the transmission line comes down, and when it gets to the road, it has to turn and align with the road.
So the steel has more vertical rigidity, so you can put tension, lateral tension on it, right?
Correct.
Okay. And you only want to use that when you have to?
Correct. We would prefer wood.
Okay. Okay. I got it. And then can you give a number on how far setback off the highway? I mean, I think there's probably a right-of-way on 113 that's much wider than the existing road, right?
It's a state right-of-way, so it's probably, I guess, 120 feet wide or so.
Yeah, I don't know what it is, but I'm guessing somewhere along the line, somebody said, we're going to turn this into a freeway.
There is not.
There's not.
There is not, because we allowed the sewer to come down through there, and they claimed that it was in the existing right-of-way by prescriptive and ingress and egress. So there is no 120 feet through there. I'm a landowner across there, so I can guarantee you there is not that.
I mean, not that I don't trust you at all.
No, I haven't verified it, but I mean, that's.
Well, I'm just saying, so if we say, if the goal is to get these things as far away from the highway as possible, you gotta have a starting point and then say, we are go 75 feet past that existing right of way or whatever it is.
Yeah.
I don't know how we do that.
Can we, because I think we have to deal with whether we're going to have a short span or a long span. Can we say that no matter what the span, that the poles be equidistant from the center of the road? So if it's a short span, you're as far away as they can get, or if it's a long span, you're as far away from the center of the road? Does that make sense? When you get to the road.
I'm going to have Nicole handle our transmission engineer.
Hi, I'm Nicole Kimball with Rocky Mountain Power Transmission Engineering. So to address your question, as we come down there from the north where we turn in that bypass corridor, there's some existing buildings, access roads to homes, existing irrigation, the irrigation wells and everything that we have to avoid. So trying to plan it for an equidistant, it'll all depend on how I can maneuver around those existing obstacles. So to say that it's going to be exactly equidistant, I can't guarantee that. And to put that condition on this makes it very difficult.
Well, you could put it as a general objective.
Right, to try to make it as, as equidistant as possible, but it may not be exactly that. By the time I maneuver around all the existing obstacles, fences, all those things that are out there for the property owners.
Understand. Do you at least have the general ideas in the setback when you're looking at the space? Range?
We don't have we were prepared to talk about the substation.
Sorry.
That's okay. In Doug's presentation,
Yep.
he's got a visual simulation, and it shows the crossing.
Right.
Can we pull that up? And you can get a better look at what I'm talking about.
That's good, that's their drawing.
And that simulation is based off of Nicole's existing model. So that's the setbacks that we currently have designed.
Okay, so it's the bottom picture. Okay, so the pole there on the south side of the road is the steel pole, the light duty, very small steel pole. The one on the north side is the wood pole. So you can kind of see how it is planned right now. It's not exactly center, but it's pretty close.
But they're set back, I mean, they're not, it's not 10 feet from, for example, the bike path.
No, it's set back far enough that we're not interfering with any existing utilities on that road or anything like that. So this is the current plan. I'd say the pole on the north is probably close to 100 feet from the edge of the road. The one on the south is,
That's the kind of help we need.
so it's about that.
So you're several hundred feet apart, distance between the poles. and
Yes.
that Presumably, you'd have to verify if it doesn't interfere with the east-west right-of-way.
Is that the short span or the long span?
The long span.
And is the pole on the south, is that the same size as the skinny poles on 40?
It'll be something similar.
Same height?
These are a little taller because Heber Light and Power has a distribution line that has to stay aerial, and we have to cross over the top of that, which is the highest point, and then the road underneath. So they're a little taller than what would be out on Highway 40, but it's going to be something similar to those small diameter poles.
One addition. By the way, I'm glad you brought her because she's much smarter than either two of you.
I would like to move that we recognize.
Formal finding.
Subject to further.
I think what we're struggling with is to be specific enough that we don't have too much discretion. Not that you would use that wrongfully, but potentially problems could arise. But give you enough leeway that you can do the job you need with the engineering, the actual build, you have the top, the spans, and things like that. So what would be helpful for me personally is maybe be a minimum setback. If you can maybe commit to, I don't even know if that's possible, that's why I'm asking you, 80 feet minimum, and then we say it has to be at least 80 feet, but you're going to try and do as far as possible. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. I would say we could do a minimum of 75 feet.
From what?
The
Edge of the road.
edge of the road. And I count the edge of the road kind of where that fence line is, truthfully.
Shoulder.
Okay,
Yeah,
so,
shoulder of the
yeah,
road.
I would not call that the edge of the road. You got a bike path that is important. You've got a
Right,
fence line.
so,
Why don't we say 75 feet off the fence line?
okay, I can, yeah,
That's the objective.
right, and try to at least do that, as we go through it, I'll try to make it longer, and I think it is, as it is, sits right now, I think we're past that point.
And then how about on the north side? Same kind of thing?
Yeah, it gets a little more complicated because there is that driveway access to an existing home that sets
Is that the Duke property?
No,
to the north there.
it's me. It's my road.
Okay. It's,
And basically, to clarify, what happens on these, you can correct me if I'm wrong, basically, the landowners own to the center of the road. We pay the taxes on it. The county has basically had a right. There's not a deeded road in these sections.
right, but that's true, you own it, but it's also subject to.
Subject to
easement.
ingressing, and so the fence lines is basically where they have the right, okay? I mean, that's been there established for years, but that's only established right away.
Thank you for clarifying that. That was very helpful. All right.
Control out. Control out.
Okay, to discuss the substation. So on June 4th, the Planning Commission closed the hearing on the transmission line, and the Planning Commission requested additional information on the substation. Applicant, Heber Light and Power owns a 20-acre parcel of land that we're discussing where the substation will be located. It's approximately 14 miles west, 650 south. Property is currently zoned RA5. Current use and historical use is agricultural with one residence. No subdivision or zoning is included in this application. And application is to construct a substation on the existing parcel, leaving other improvements in place. I've alluded to code 160703, residential agricultural 5-acre lot, 4814 COP required for electric substation in RA5 zone. The question of 20% max lot coverage with buildings or structures, we really looked at this and came in at less than 15% of total coverage with structures.
How are you defining a structure? Because it strikes me as equipment or something, you know.
Yeah.
Jason, I can speak to that. The definition of structure in your code is inconceivably broad. So I think we would agree with you, but we've painted with a fairly broad brush, and anything that, yeah, is probably equipment is in a green box, and we counted it with the area.
Yeah,
So, yeah,
look at
that's
this,
what I'm
it's the green box. We think it's a conservative calculation because the green boxes surround much more than just what the equipment itself is sitting on, sort of like equipment areas. So, and they give it that as 14.7.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm asking is how, you know, what's the footprint of
Yeah,
the structure?
what's within those green boxes, it's a
That's-
little hard to see.
Okay, it's the kind of neon green.
Correct.
We did a breakout on this, and the current house and buildings that were on the property when we purchased it are 0.4 acres. The one substation, the HLP sub portion of the substation, has 1.32 acres of the green boxes, I guess. And the RMP portion of the sub is 1.17 acres. Total land used in its structures is 2.89 acres, which is total land use of 14.5%. And we had, we just had an engineering firm do this work for us. Any questions on any of that?
Do you have any plans for the existing home? I assume it's not always done.
The direction I've got from my power board is to just hang on to it until we're done with the project, and then if at that point in time the board chooses to, try to get a subdivision done here and sell that 5 acres off, then that's what we go about doing at that time.
There's a question, would that affect the percentage of your equipment, your structures on the properties where you subdivide?
It still meets it.
Still needs it.
Well, 3 acres out of 15 acres is 20%. You're under 3 acres, you take off 5, you're still under 20%.
So Wasatch County Code 162119, we don't believe it does apply to this application, but we are trying to comply with the intent of the transition standard that appears to reduce or limit line of sight between uses of transitional zones. While the ordinance itself does not apply, the intent of the ordinance has been incorporated into the application. Incorporated into this application is front, side, and rear lot separation, landscape screening using trees and shrubs, the earthen berm, and dark sky substation lighting. These improvements have been made to incorporated to mitigate real and perceived impacts to adjacent properties for this conditional use. So this is, we got this project engineering consultants to go to work very quickly on industrial landscape architectural design for us. And we feel like they did a pretty good job of incorporating the correct trees for this type of facility. And we did do two different types of mitigation factors. Clearly, my power board really liked the berm approach with more landscaping, but there is still the concrete wall option. Due to cost, it's one or the other. So,
Meaning they're of equal cost?
Huh?
Meaning the cost is the same or close?
They're pretty close to being equal, yes. The amount of trees that are in the berm and architectural design. You can see with the concrete wall, we really had to back out on the trees to stay within the project budget. These were in Doug's presentation too. You can see the berms have quite a bit more overall landscaping. To hide it at the property lines, the berm itself has a lot less landscaping, but it does have that concrete wall. So that's something for you guys to consider. That went into the state statutes of conditional uses. This statute is where the state grants the county the ability to adopt a CUP ordinance. Land use authority shall approve a conditional use if reasonable conditions are proposed or can be imposed to mitigate reasonable anticipated detrimental effects of the proposed use in accordance with applicable standards. The requirement described in subsection 2AI to reasonably mitigate anticipated detrimental effects of the proposed conditional use does not require elimination of the detrimental effect. Other statutes, conditions may be imposed to mitigate the reasonably anticipated detrimental effects of the proposed use in accordance with applicable standards. Imposition of reasonable conditions is to achieve compliance with applicable standards. Hence, the detrimental effect must be measured against an applicable standard, and an imposed condition must be to achieve compliance with applicable standards. To go into your code, 16.3.07, 10 conditional use permit standards are all met by the project or are not relevant. The application complies with all requirements of this title. This application complies with all requirements of the county code. The business shall maintain a business license if required. It's not applicable to, we've both been in business for a long time and can handle that. Use will be compatible with surrounding structures in use, location, scale, mass, design, and circulation. The project will not affect the existing approved use, location, scale, mass, design, and circulation of adjacent structures. The visual or safety impacts caused by the proposed use can be adequately mitigated with conditions. Safety, the project has been designed to meet or exceed all required standards in the National Electric Safety Code. Visual impacts are mitigated by following the intent of Wasatch County Code 162119. We will be incorporating dark sky lighting. We will be using landscaping, deciduous trees, evergreen trees, and shrubs. We will be doing 5-foot earthen berm to raise landscaping profiles when viewed from adjacent lots. And we will need front, side, and rear lot separation. Use is consistent with Wasatch County General Plan. Approval of this application does not conflict with your general plan. And safe, reliable, adequate, and affordable electric service is consistent with Wasatch County's general plan. The effects of any future expansion in use or scale can be and will be mitigated through conditions. Wasatch ordinance already covers this contingency. Any material future expansion already limited by Wasatch County Code 1623-06E and will require another conditional use permit hearing. So, and this provides county the ability to adjust permit conditions if at a later date future expansion in the approved use or scale occurs. All the issues of lighting, parking, the location and nature of the proposed use, character of the surrounding development, traffic capacities of adjacent and collector streets, the environmental factors such as drainage, erosion, soil stability, wildlife impacts, dust, odor, noise, and vibrations, we believe have been adequately mitigated through these conditions. We will be using dark sky lighting, and it will be incorporated into the design. No traffic impacts are noted. Developed site will be stabilized and no impacts to drainage, erosion, stability, dust, odor are noted. No noise or vibrations at the property line from this application. The use will not place an unreasonable financial burden on the county or place significant impact on the county or surrounding properties without adequate mitigation of those impacts. Applicant's proposed project places no financial burdens on the county or surrounding properties. The use will not adversely affect the health, safety, or welfare of the residents and visitors of Wasatch County. This project is necessary to provide safe, reliable, adequate, and affordable electric service. Sufficient, reliable electric service is inarguably a positive impact to Wasatch County's health, safety, and welfare. Applicants are unaware of any negative health, safety, or welfare impact of the proposed project. Any land use requiring a building permit shall conform to the International Uniform Building Code standards. That's not applicable. It will be designed and built according to, the national electric standard that we live by. So, any questions?
Quick question for you. Do you know the answer to this? There's some concern about the height of the equipment, 35-foot limit for structures in the county. I'll repeat myself. There was some concern about the height of some of the equipment within the substation. As you know, there's a 35-foot limit for structures. What is your response to that?
Well, once inside the fence, we do have two dead-end power poles with an H-frame structure in between them that will take the incoming energy down to all the equipment that is less than 35-foot structures.
So if I am understanding correctly, the only thing that's over 35 feet are these two dead-end structures.
Yeah, the dead-end structures where they'll be inside the fence, where the power comes off the power poles outside the fence into these dead-end structures that are essentially power poles themselves with brackets in between.
I have a question whether or not that standard, the 35